possibly we come to the fag end of the topic sessions, and I am privileged to have amongst me some of my industry peers, seniors, and some well accomplished general counsels. The topic that we have chosen for ourselves today is the role of GC in today's legal environment. I think the way the world is getting structured, the way the legislation is moving around, the one person personally whom I feel could be at the forefront in terms of leading companies, corporations, is the general counsel. Gone are those days when a general counsel was a backdoor kind of a service. Today, a GC is possibly, I think, already on the C-suite or on the path to the C-suite. So just let me introduce my panelists to all of you, and then I'll request each one of them to share their experience of what do they feel. Where is the role of a GC in today's legal environment? On the extreme left is Mr. Badrinath Durvasula, who heads L&T, and Badri has an enormous experience in terms of both Indian and international sphere of work in terms of the GC sphere. Next to him is Vineet, who represents HCL, and Vineet brings with him the expertise in the IT area. And in fact, I have a very interesting mix. What we were discussing amongst ourselves is we have manufacturing, we have IT, we have a fast-moving consumer good, and of course we have the beverage. So next is Chakradhar, who represents Godrej, and finally Shukla, Wassan, she represents Hindustan, Coca-Cola. So without wasting much time, I'll request Shukla to start on what does she perceive to be the role of the GC in today's environment, legal environment.
Before I start, I just like to good evening to everybody. And how many GCs are there sitting in the audience with us? So easy situation for us to speak on. Okay. Over the span of my career, what I found is as a GC role, it is given that you will have the legal acumen. There's no question on that part of it. Having said that, we have moved far ahead in our role from looking into the sections and the books and just saying this is doable, this is not doable, and so on and so forth. Today, the way we've seen a GC role emerging in our organization and in my career span is that we have always found a seat on the table. Unless you find a seat on the table and you are part of the decision making, you do not grow in an organization. So to where I've come from, where I've realized that over a period of time, the GCs are today on the board of the company. GCs are today an integral part of almost all decision making in the company, be it financial, be it transaction, everything to do with the business as such. And today our CEOs and the board members are relying quite heavily on the GCs to not just be the legal, to advise them, to guide them on legal front, but also to steer the business decision, to take strategic calls when there is a need for it. Time and again, I've seen my CEO who comes and tells me that, okay, you just go and handle the situation. And then there comes the role that understand the business, what's happening there. And then what we do is we club the business as well as the legal and make it a solution-oriented situation. So broadly, I would just like to state that, give it to my other colleagues to say something. Yeah.
Thank you, Ram, for the introduction. I am working with Godrej, which is into manufacturing as well as into consumer goods, and of course, off late into gourmet food retailing through Nature's Baskets retail stores. My own perspective of how and what kind of a contribution a general counsel needs to have vis-a-vis a company is to have a client-focused service environment delivered with clear value add. These are the basic fundamentals of how you define a general counsel position serving an organization. And to do that, there are certain steps to follow. The most basics are common, whether it be in profession or with reference to being a GC or an in-house counsel. And insofar as building a value addition that you can deliver to the business, I think partnering and understanding to be a trusted advisor to the business is the most important. And to get back to what we heard in the morning from Mr. Ramjet Mulani, the ability to speak with conviction and courage is also something which is most fundamental to be a GC. Because if you are saying that you are going to be a strategy advisor, you need to have the conviction in what you deliver, and that's the clear value add that a GC must be able to give. In my own professional experience, I have seen that you will be getting into the stepping stone of the path of being a general counsel at someday only when, as an in-house counsel, what are all the arenas that you have to tread on and where you deliver value, because that is constantly monitored by people around you who seek the service. Irrespective of where you are, in which company you are, in which position you are, ultimately your drive is to be a general counsel. Then you need to know at each and every step that the goal is to set a strategy and deliver it as a value add. In this journey, the basic fundamentals are building a trusted partnership with the business and the business head, and at the same time have the integrity to tell him not just what not to do, but to tell him that if this is not possible, what are the dimensions in which something is possible for the business to reach the goal. Shortcuts, saying that okay, the law doesn't permit it, therefore do it this way, does not necessarily mean leading him the right thing, but to tell him or her who is leading the business that the fundamentals of your business are not just only doing the business in the strictest legal sense, but looking at your issues on how do you mitigate the risk, what is the reputational risk that you may have, what's the most important thing for you as an organization, and how do you behave. These essentials are also part of the strategy. That's what I have been seeing. And some of the basic ways in which a GC has to work in today's environment is on all the fundamentals that I just now described. Look at the risk mitigation strategy that you are delivering, look at the reputational risk, evaluate it, and beyond the letter and spirit of the law, if something is being advised, is it the thing which can be put in place and practiced for time to come to ensure that profitable business is made up. That's where a general counsel delivers value, and there is a pyramid, value pyramid that happens in the journey of being a general counsel. So complex problem solving, having a board influence, these things become the ultimate when you are going the path of general counsel. And I would like to hand it over to Mr. Vij to express himself.
Thank you, Chakradhar. I think I will, hi, good evening friends first. I will take up from where Ramaswamy left. You know, the ecosystem has changed. We don't work in the environment as it used to exist, say about 20, 30 years ago. We work in multiple jurisdictions. Your action here in India impacts you and your business in the US, Europe, wherever. So I think from there, the role of the GC, the in-house counsel, the legal department has absolutely changed. You pointed out about the fact that you are the strategic advisor. I will rather want to also add another point, which is, and also need to be a business enabler. So on the one hand, you are advising strategy, you sit with the management, you're part of the leadership team, you put to the table, you bring to the table, you know, the legal provisions, the ramifications, but you also need to put to the table and bring to the table the solutions that you have to meet to the situations. So I think that's a very important piece of role which GC needs to discharge today. You have the business teams on the one side, the business on the one side, and you also have the external counsels on the other side. So there is another role that a GC or the in-house counsel plays. He needs to reconcile what the external counsel feels is the best for an organization or in the given scheme of things or within the framework of law. Here is a business which demands a solution, which has an expectation, and here is the General Counsel who reconciles and brings to the table the solution which is most apt for the organization. I think the GC is also blessed to the extent that he understands the business. He sits within the organization, so therefore he understands the nature of business that the organization conducts. So if it's an IT company, you sort of understand what is a software, what goes into making a software, what is an IT solution, what is the whole scheme of things. And so on is for the other industries that we talk about, the vendor setup and so on and so forth. So that's an important role that the GC plays. He brings to the table the value, which is on the one hand, mitigating the risks for the organization, reputational and others, and at the same time finding a solution which is in the best interest of the organization. So I think, and we've all spoken about that, so in some way or the other. So
in fact, I would like to support your cause by giving a metaphor, which I learned from some of the seniors with whom I worked. Don't be a lighthouse, but be the compass in my ship. That's what the business leaders need from the general counsels. So if the metaphor is used in exactly what the other words that Viz used, that be a business enabler, that's what is the evaluation that a general counsel today is required to do.
Absolutely. And I think we all are on the same page, and I'm sure we don't have the benefit of other GCs in the room, but I'm sure that's the way to support the business and help business growth, both in terms of profitability and the top lines.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a slightly different perspective I'd like to give about the role of the GC. Here we are all singularly lucky enough, those 5 of us who are on this dais, to call ourselves GCs, because this is not a culture which is widely prevalent in India. Let me make it very candid statement. It's not that every company has got a GC or every company is guided by GC. But it is also not true that they are not aware about the fact what a GC can bring onto the table. So there are 2 challenges before the GC community over here. One, how well to drive the value of a GC for an organization. We need to bring in the value. Second is that whatever role we are performing as GCs, and the lucky ones who are sitting on the dais and my good friend Ramaswamy, are we really creating value for the system? It's a matter of an introspection. There is a great deal of thought which goes in. I come from a company called, for the sake of foreign audience, I come from a company called Larsen and Toubro, which is an engineering behemoth into various types of activities it is into. We also spread into various parts of the globe, and we are into about 140 lines of businesses. Imagine for a moment that anybody doing a business into a $15 billion kind of a business, could he be taking a kind of a snapshot view of what he would do without consulting a GC? It's next to impossible. It's next to impossible. So what they do is that here they have recognized finally the role of a GC. But it is not that I have transcended through the path of a GC overnight. No. Earlier I was a legal officer, then I was a legal advisor, and finally into a kind of a GC. When the critical mass comes in for a business, that is where the role for a GC really steps in. So how well the critical mass, not necessarily the kind of a business. There should be issues, or there could be a focus on the issues. It's not that every company will land up in some kind of a soup, then they will think about a GC. No, it's not that. Well, any company would really land up in a soup. We need to tell them what are the potential pitfalls they have it. Typically, the role of a GC, I would put in a matrix of 4. One is the basic fundamental duty of a lawyer or a general counsel is advisory. That's advisory. The second most important paradigm for him is on documentation. Whichever structure he does it, it's essentially a documentation. Third, he need to handhold the people in terms of litigation, because that's something which is bound to happen for an organization. The fourth and the most important thing is the strategy. These are the 4 critical elements of a working of a general counsel. Once we recognize these 4 parameters, there could be many, but essentially I converge it onto these 4 points for the simple reason that how well a GC can bring in value depends on how much he is doing the hard work on these 4 critical parameters. First and foremost, the kind of advisory. The advisory, when we talk about it, are we in a good position to really give the real good advice? When do we give it? When we have it. So what is the attempts we are having to have that advice? I think it's a matter of a perception that how much of a hard work each of the GCs are doing at their back end to deliver a value to the company is something to be computed. The very fact that 5 of our GCs representing Coca-Cola to that of HCL to Larsen and Toubro to Godrej, the major industries of India, not to miss out my friend from Escorts in Delhi, the very serious concern where we are here is to understand if we can pick up a couple of good points from these deliberations of today, whether we would extend that value. We came in a commercial spirit. We wanted to learn something over here to pass on to our organization. I think that's what our focus and aim would be. Similarly, the important thing for a GC would be to really learn himself, unwind himself, and create a value for himself. That's a fabulous thing. I just narrate a story before I close, or maybe hand it over to Rama again. A simple story. We went for a job, and we went for a bid of a job in Kuwait. Larsen and Toubro went for a job. And halfway down through the bid, when the timelines have come through, we wanted to come out of the job. Because somewhere something went wrong in terms of our estimation for the job, and we wanted to extricate ourselves from that. Fortunately or unfortunately, the bid times have closed and we have been shortlisted as L1, but at the same time, they could not finalize, the owners could not finalize the contract with us, thinking that we will automatically extend them some kind of a timeline by a few more months or maybe few more weeks. They came back saying that we are not finalizing on this particular date. So can you extend your bid validity by about a month? They asked us. Immediately we saw the opportunity. Because this is a job, a major job of close to $1 billion is something we don't want to do. We don't want to do because of our commercial reasons. We knew the market now because much water has flown. We wanted to come. Then the call comes from my managing director. He calls the GC. Incidentally, it's me. He calls the GC and deliberates.